good wins, inspiring great lives like yours. We all desire good. We yearn for the happy ending and are hardwired to expect it. Today it can be easy to lose hope, become discouraged. Good can seem tricky to find. Good Winds says this: regardless of how things appear, good, as you define it, will prevail. What you're going through right now will somehow work to your advantage, and everything will be okay.
Hello and welcome. It's nice to be with you. My mother used to tell me, be kind to everyone you meet, for each person is carrying a heavy load. As a young boy, this didn't make sense. The people around me looked fine. They didn't seem to be struggling. It took me a while, but I realized she was right. As I grew older, I took on problems of my own and learned from others that they had theirs too. I'd like to provide a little kindness to you today. Regardless of the challenges you face, or whatever may be happening in your world, there is another chapter just around the corner. Goodness will prevail. Good things will happen to you and for you. Good wins. I now invite you to rest for a moment. Set aside your cares and concerns. My clock is set for 20 minutes. May our time together give you comfort, assurance, and hope. People talk often about life being hard, the struggles we face, the things we can't change. I think we may be missing something. What happens after? The pride that comes from finishing something you didn't think you could, enduring an especially hard time, overcoming a loss. A man once wrote, "I was drafted during the Vietnam War. I hated every moment. I thought it was so unfair that part of my life was being taken away and I was going through hell. Now, 50 years later, it's the proudest achievement I've accomplished in my life. I am a veteran." That time of his life didn't destroy him. It wasn't wasted. He learned the after. He found the good, even in something as bad as war. Bad times happen to us all. They are temporary. Rain falls on each of us. But that rain brings fruit, green grass, food, and water to drink. We are not overwhelmed by our problems. Hard times produce benefits. The title of my message today is Finding the Good in Bad Times. Imagine a busy, crowded place, a sporting event, an airport, or a highway. It may appear that everyone else is going through life easy and carefree. I've discovered that even in the best of times, our minds deal with thoughts of something not quite right, something unsettled. Not just some of us. My mom was right. Everyone is carrying some kind of a burden, a heavy load. Some of the people in the airport would tell you that a loved one has died. They're traveling to a funeral. Even those who are taking the trip of a lifetime have something on their minds. The man or woman in the car that just went past you has a full plate. Even your fellow spectators at the football game, there is something in their life that weighs heavy on them. You couldn't tell it by their faces. They look fine. I have felt the pain of a heavy burden. During and after the divorce from my wife, I keenly remember driving home after a rough day at work, heading to an empty house, worried about my finances. I was troubled by the stress of knowing that I was barely keeping my head above water. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world, surrounded by others driving as if nothing were wrong with hardly a care. I wondered, don't they know my world is falling apart? The truth is, I didn't know what the others were thinking or feeling. I couldn't. They may have had it worse than me. I'm sure now that some of them did. The funny thing is, if you drove by me that day, you may have thought I was carefree. There was no way you could have known. When your days are hard, it can be easy to believe that no one else feels this way. They all appear to be fine. You may think, everyone else's life is more exciting than mine. No one else has the troubles I do. No one understands, or the very worst, I'm unique and not in a good way. I'm defective. I'm no good. When you're in a crowd, you look around and imagine what others are thinking, how they feel. You really don't know. Social media throws gasoline on that fire. Social media tells us how great others are doing. We see pictures of a perfect family, a new love, a big house, the trappings of an exciting job, what appears to be a stark contrast to our own life. Most of the time we don't even think about it, but when we're facing a difficult time, the quote, great life, unquote, everyone else seems to be living can make us feel isolated, alone, and different. It can amplify our discomfort. What's my point? Well, two things. First, everyone is carrying a heavy load. And second, comparing yourself to others usually makes things worse than they actually are. Even in our best times, there is usually something that keeps us up at night. That includes those who appear to have it all together. Paul Newman was a movie star, a director, and a producer. He was incredibly handsome, to the point of defining the word cool. His demeanor and confidence told you that this was a man in control. He was a race car driver and a successful businessman. He launched the Newman's Own Food Company, where all profits go to help kids. And he was married to his first and only wife for 50 years. He starred in the movie Winning. His character was a race car driver, something that came easy for him. He wore a watch in that movie that became famous, a 1968 Rolex Daytona. There were many copies of that watch, but there was only one that Paul Newman owned and wore in the movie. That watch sold at auction in 2017, 9 years after his death, and almost 50 years after the movie came out. Because it was his, it gathered a lot of attention and interest. Like him, it was one of a kind. Paul Newman's Rolex sold for more than $15 million. Paul Newman made a career out of modeling the person who had it all together, ultimately cool, without a care in the world. His personal life, however, was no different than the rest of us. He had doubts. He felt he didn't measure up, wasn't good enough. When I heard this, I thought, are you kidding me? Paul Newman? That can't be right. The correct response should have been, of course he did. He was human. We all have doubts. Part of me is encouraged that someone as famous, as put together as Paul Newman was, faced some of the same challenges I do. It makes me feel less alone, like I'm not different, not defective. I'm just like everyone else. I admire Paul Newman even more knowing this part of his story. I choose him as a role model. It doesn't matter that I will never meet him, that we'll never talk, or that he died many years ago. He's a role model because he didn't let his insecurities limit him. If he can overcome what threatened to hold him back and reach the heights he did, this gives me hope that there is more in my future than I can imagine. The same is true for you. Everyone is carrying a heavy load. even those who appear to have it all together, who seemingly don't have a care in the world. You, like Paul Newman, may doubt that you have what it takes. You may wonder if you can scale the mountain that lies before you. May I remind you that you've had doubts before? May I also remind you that you have endured and come through hard times before? You may have thought then, as you do today, that you couldn't make it, but you did. There's a reason for your doubt. Actually, two reasons. First, our minds try to convince us that today's challenges are different from anything we've ever faced. We tell ourselves, yes, I may have endured hardships before, but nothing like this. This time is different. The stakes are higher, the odds too great. Second, our subconscious remembers everything, but our conscious minds have poor memory. We tend to forget the hard times, the trauma that we endured, on purpose. We are designed that way, to let go of much of the negative we live through. Even when we face something similar, it may feel that we're on our own, against a challenge that appears new and different. If you're a modest person, not prone to bragging, you may have an additional barrier. You may forget not only your trauma, you may also downplay your victories. You know what cookies are in a computer? They are little crumbs left behind from a past encounter that make it easier for the computer to find what you're looking for next time, to be more effective. The same is true in your mind. Each experience leaves behind crumbs in your storehouse, your toolkit. You may doubt on the surface that you have what it takes, but deep inside, your subconscious is prepared and has everything you need. The trials of yesterday have prepared you for the tests of today. Whatever you're going through, you have the strength, tools, and grace to get to the other side, to endure the bad until the good arrives. You also have within you a superpower, the power to believe. In Michigan, Henry Ford is a legend. His name is everywhere. He didn't make the first automobile. He did it better and on a larger scale than anyone else. His impact is still felt today. Henry Ford had something few others possessed. Not money, courage, innovation, or creativity. The power to believe. The power to direct his mind to create a future he desired, and the belief that he could overcome whatever stood in his way. Henry Ford wasn't initially successful. He failed more than once. He faced bankruptcy twice. He accepted his reality. He didn't deny it. He also didn't let it overwhelm him. He put in his mind such a clear picture of what he wanted that he believed it into existence. You and I can learn from his example. We can train our minds toward what we want so strongly that we can endure whatever stands between us and our vision of success. I'm inspired by two quotes from Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. What this says to me is this: if you think you can go forward toward what you want, then you will. If you think you're stuck or that you're defeated, then you are. Second, he said, when everything seems against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. The headwinds we face are there to promote, not to prevent. The challenges we face bring out our best energy to that which we want badly. May I add one more quote that I know to be true? Your life will go in the direction of your strongest thoughts. Change your thoughts, change your life. When you believe you can prevail over your challenges, you will. May I speak to you from my heart? Hard times come. Everyone has them. Each of us will spend time in the corners of life, a time out from living, where we're just existing. May I remind you that you can and will get through them. There is a benefit to every struggle. They are not random. They have purpose and meaning. Often you can't see it in the moment, but someday you may. The problem, the struggle, the challenge, the pain is a piece of your puzzle, a vehicle to get you someplace else, somewhere better. We tend to believe that others have it better than we do, a better life, more money, opportunity, and so on. The truth is, those who post those great pictures and stories on social media aren't all high and they're not all low. They're both, and they're average, just like the rest of us. Maybe you dream of a better day, a better life. Make your dream a thought, a constant thought. Think on it until you've created a vision, a picture so real that you can write about or speak about it to a stranger. Then internalize it so deep that it becomes your belief. When you know that you know, then watch as you move toward that which you believe in. People will come into your life to help you, to remove barriers, to give you what you haven't got on your own. Doors will open. Regardless of what is happening in your life, be kind, be pleasant, forgiving, and understanding to everyone you meet. Be a friend. Everyone is carrying a heavy load. When you are the one who needs understanding, softness, and love, surely a friend will be there for you. In closing, let me say this. You are stronger than you realize. My voice and my message is only the trigger. The power is within you to soar to higher and higher heights. Your past does not predict or limit your future. The best days of your life are just ahead. If you knew me many years ago, you would see such a change, such growth, so many blessings, even when I didn't believe anything great was possible for me. My horizons were small. My goals were very average. That was okay for that time in my life. That wasn't the end of my movie. My movie is still being written, and so is yours. Believe with me, good wins.